Thank you.
David Clark.
Mr. Speaker, this bill carries some real fish hooks. It's a terrible shame and it's a waste of opportunity, as this whole budget that we've witnessed today also is. We are spending a couple of $1 million worth of parliamentary time tinkering, Mr. Speaker, and it is a shocking waste of taxpayer money when we are picking the pockets of paper boys and girls around the country because there are no other bright ideas, it seems. This comes from the government that has already delivered tax cuts, 44% of the value of which went to the top 10% and just 2% of the value of which went to the bottom 20%. That was those 2010 tax cuts. The GST has been cutting in for those on low incomes as well, and we know, Mr. Speaker, there are a lot of people around this country who are hurting right now. And this budget brings them no hope whatsoever. It is tinkering. And so we have in this bill, we have the proposal to abolish 3 tax credits. It's a miserly proposal, picking the pockets of the paper boys and paper girls around the country. I too, like the last speaker, was a paper boy in my younger years. I got paid, I think it was $2.86 or $3.16 for my deliveries on my first paper, and that was on a contract. On my next delivery round, I delivered this Auckland Star, and finally I was promoted to deliver the Auckland Herald. Those little bits of money enabled me, Mr. Speaker, to appreciate the value of earning money, and like many members of this House, I have enjoyed many jobs since, and it also gave me the pride in being able to earn that money. Now, I know that the National Party doesn't think that's much, and they don't care particularly for the little bits of money that those paper boys and girls earn around the country. But to take that money off them that they were getting in a tax credit that they looked forward to seems to be nothing, Mr. Speaker, but miserly. There is no other word for it. And the next thing we see in this bill is the abolition of elections to leave herd valuation scheme. And that, Mr. Speaker, is a sensible move proposed by the Labour Party, and it's delightful to see that it's been taken up. But again, that we need to go into urgency to achieve this change shows how limited the range of options for the government is in terms of bills to debate. Mr. Speaker, and the final part of that bill deals with punishing students who have worked hard to pay off their loans. The rebate, the encouragement to pay off their loans more quickly has been removed from these students. We know lots of students are struggling. I see them in Dunedin all the time. Those students work hard, they study hard, they are eating noodles from bowls, they are making ends meet, and they're doing their best. But this government seems determined to make it harder for them, and it seems determined to shut more and more students out of education. They've frozen the level of the incomes that the parent threshold relates to in order to make sure that fewer and fewer students will qualify for student allowances. Many of these students, Mr. Speaker, also go out to work to support themselves through their studies, and they will have to work longer and harder under this government and have less time to work hard on their studies to ensure that they're good contributing taxpayers in the future. This government seems to have no vision for educating its citizens, for making sure they get the best skills, for encouraging them to do that, and for making sure they can make the most of their opportunities. We'll also hear more about the way in which the years of allowance are being taken off these students, so they can't get the longer degrees, so they can't add the value that they might add to this country. And it's going to eliminate a group of students, those who are middle and low income earners. It's not going to affect the really wealthy ones. It will only affect the low and middle income earners. It's wasteful. It's wasteful of our talent, Mr. Speaker. And we've also seen that the real value of student support is going down. It's been going down. It's been trending down for a long time. And the last thing we need is more punishment for students. But that's what we've got here in this bill. That's what we've got. Mr. Speaker, if I can return to the matter of the kids. That's right. the paper boys and girls. What we find when we look at the regulatory impact statement, Mr. Speaker, is something quite astonishing. This attempt to broaden the tax base of New Zealand through pinching money off the kids is not only perhaps a little bit of a strange idea to members on this side of the House, but we can also see that it's an inefficient idea. And if I can read from the regulatory impact statement, generally speaking, the proposed option should not impose any new compliance costs on businesses. That's how these things regularly start. But wait, it says, however, businesses that employ only school children on very low wages, below $2,340 per annum, may have to begin withholding pay-as-you-earn from these employees from 1 April 2013. This is increasing compliance so that we can take money off kids who earn under $3,000 a year. That is outrageous. If this is the government's big idea, it is embarrassing. This is a zero idea, Mr. Speaker. Below $2,340 per annum, businesses employing school kids earning that amount, those very low wages, may have to begin withholding pay-as-you-earn. And that means increased compliance. Now we can see that that's not going to be all, Mr. Speaker. There'll be other employers in the same situation. We'll see it's not only schools that have to go through with this measure. We'll find small delivery countries around the country, other low-paid workers will have to ensure that those kids that are doing jobs for them will have to go out there and pay as you earn and get robbed of their little tax credit. Mr. Speaker, this is not base broadening. This is certainly not visionary stuff. We've got an economy that is struggling. There's no doubt about that. We've been buying more than we sell for too long, and this government seems to have no plan to address it. It's very focused on government debt. That's a problem that we agree is not too difficult to solve. The Labour Party would have got there in the same time the National Party is planning to get there. But there are bigger issues. We've got this issue with buying more than we're selling. Our exporters need support. We need pro-growth tax policies, not pinching money from paper boys and paper girls. So the idea of pinching the money from the paper boys and the paper girls we've got this tinkering. It resembles the wider government tax program, which I'm sure we'll hear a little bit more of as the year goes through, very much in the same line. There is no attempt to wrestle with the bigger issues, the capital gains tax that would push money towards the productive sector, the monetary policy that would support our export businesses. Mr. Speaker, if we don't change anything in this area of taxation, nothing will change. New Zealand will continue to limp along. 50,000 people a year will continue to leave for Australia. 50,000 people a year more will end up on the unemployment benefit. 50,000 people more a year will end up out of work. This is not good enough. It is simply not good enough. And Mr. Speaker, in some of the publicity put out with these changes regarding the tax credits, we see that the childcare housekeeper tax credit is being removed also. And the reason given is that it affects mainly higher decile people. Now, that may be true, and if the data presented in the publicity material, which we've had a very short time to look over, is correct, then there may be some very good reason for amending that. But we also see that at least 20%, and by the look of it, closer to 30% of those families who receive this tax credit are actually lower income households. And we're going to remove that tax credit from them because it's too hard to do anything different, it seems. So it's all about making sure that things are simple in one sense, and yet we're going to increase compliance on school kids in the other sense. It makes no sense, Mr. Speaker. And as I draw to a close, Mr. Speaker, I want to state again that if we don't change things greater than this in our tax system, we will continue to see those same trends that we've seen up till now. We'll continue to see our country borrowing. We'll continue to see private debt growing. We'll continue to see our citizens buying more than our exporters sell. And we'll continue to see exporters struggling in the face of unhelpful policies that the current government is putting forward. 50,000 more people will end up going to Australia every year, 50,000 more people will end up unemployed, and 50,000 more people will end up on benefits, Mr. Speaker. It's not good enough. We need bolder tax policy. This policy is not going to do it.
Maggie Berry.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I rise to speak to the taxation bill, which is